Why it is a matter of great concern for us that who we watch on news or follow on social media believes in. Our political, social, economical, religious beliefs drive our behavior in the society. It dictates about which version of the truth are you really willing to listen to. The right wing believes the right, the left believes the left, and trust me, there is no bipartisan center-left in India anymore. Whoever we listen to on social media or on TV networks hold some kind of tilt or prejudice, some to the right and most to the left. The biggest problem is their biased opinion and inclination that they pass on to their viewer. Another problem is more consequential, and that is them considering themselves always right and never listen to the other side. And this feeling of being righteous makes them numb towards the other. They sort of create the hollow space around themselves, and they hear only their own echo. We have gone way too far into it that we have even divided our victims and culprits as well. Who we gonna favor depends on the belief of that particular victim. The rights were heartless to the Kathua rape and murder victim Asifa, and the left ecosystem shed no tears for Aligarh infant rape and murder victim Twinkle. TV as well as social media bloody behaves like bunch of jokers hailing themselves right and hurling hot words at each other at every possible instance. In fact, which country should we support is dictated not by our strategic need, but by our inherent bias. The right wing sees a partner in Israel because they fuck the Arabs every now and then, and what's more pleasing than to see the Arabs being flipped over and fucked, right? And the left loves to romance the Arabs and its father figure communist China. And the worst part is that this bloody game goes on forever and we watch these stooges with their dick in our head. The right wants to turn this nation into a particular religious denomination, into a particular identity, which doesn't represent the Bharat. And the left wants to turn this nation into a heartless communist or an Islamic state, whichever deems necessary and fit at that time. Probably that's why the left extends its support to the Islamic state enthusiasts in India. Listen to the right and you'll be convinced about their commitment to the glorious past, and listen closely and you'll find flying stupidity, over-exaggeration and nonsense in the name of religion and culture. And on the other side, listen to the left and you would want to kill yourself right away with the shame of being born in this country and to your bloody and discriminatory parents, and might even start to hate this dystopian and crony capitalist state we call India, and may cry for a utopian state which would, by the way, never exist. So where is the bloody normal? Another huge factor between the right and the left is Ram. I think and believe that Ram existed. He once walked this earth. He was a great warrior, loved his wife a lot, a great and benevolent king, suffered throughout his life for being righteous. There is a lot to learn from his pious journey. But you know what the tragedy is? Instead of following his path to a great life, we simply hailed him as a god and cut off the very reason to take inspiration from him. Instead of learning to live the way he lived, not like some god, but as a perfect human. Maryada Purushottam, as we hail him as. Guys, this is the best part of the human civilization we are living in. This is the golden period, not some Gupta empire, where you can, right now, where you can do whatever the heck you want to do, and even fight for democracy if you don't like it. You never had this freedom in the past. Guys, the people we worship as gods were not really gods as per se, and these heroes weren't God. Had they been, they would have made our life easier 1,000 years back. They are the heroes to learn from. They taught us the importance of character. How many of those people who hail him as God actually learn from his life? The problem is that the right loves Ram to an extent that they pushed him to the status of a god. He was what Adi Shankara described as being the purest soul. And then comes the left. They hate him so much so that they are not even willing to accept his most honest claim to the land he once owned and has a title to. For me, Ram is Ram. He's neither of the two. But our right and left have reached a level of mutual destruction and collapse where dialogue has become destructible. Guys, if you trace the origin of this intellectual corruption, then you would find it all started post-independence, when the nationalistic media and academia was slowly replaced by the hardcore Marxist historians. Left intelligentsia and Marxist media personalities who were smitten by the charm of the Soviets. And this happened after the 1970s, as it is evident from Mitrokhin archive and Yuri Bezmenov's testimonies. Do watch them. An amateur Indian Marxist slowly walked into the honey trap of KGB and played at their behest and groomed anti-India propaganda in elite Indian institutions. And that happened not only in India, but in the US itself. Here they were not completely wrong. The Indian right wing was very much dumb, agnostic and radical in their approach, that they helped their rival in proving themselves wrong. And this bigotry of the right kept on going, but they lacked intellectual and popular media support. And the left enjoyed it unlimited freedom for this while. And this bloody distortion of Indian history and society kept on going till 2013. And then this baton of historical distortion was taken over by the BJP. Though they haven't been able to deliver any significant blow to this distortion, but they have been quite dumb in their approach when it comes to the correct version of the history. Puranas were fables that the right wants to turn into history nowadays. Guys, here the right is not innocent too. They too distort history just like their leftist friends. Left painted Hindus as savages, radicals, misogynistic, whereas the right painted itself as proud, glorious and a heaven for being a woman. Neither of them is right. India was and is India. It was not a perfect society. We had our own share of injustice in history, but we were not as bad as the left painted us. Aryan invasion theory is one of the example of such a distortion, where the left pushed it to such an extent that it almost separated Tamil Nadu from rest of India. This theory was a work of wild imagination and the left picked it up and spread it around. Why I blame the left most in this whole game? Because they had the biggest share in this distortion. And then Modi happened and ultimately table turned the other way around. And now what does the right do? It doesn't do everything right. It captures the popular media with the money it had always had, and now the right wing got the taste of power and they raked in popular media houses that were previously leftist or neutral and turned them into its personal property. And meanwhile, the left shrank to its lowest point in history, and to such an extent that the left is now confined to digital media, social media and few English newspapers and some Indian elite institutions. Guys, the left and especially the new amateur Marxist-owned media in India since 1970s successfully ran their propaganda pretty well. The left had academics, intellectuals, media barons that helped in pushing the propaganda down our throat. The right wing at the time was not so well read as the left and were mostly into business and making money, and they fell short of breath in academia. And as soon as they got hold of the mainstream media, they bought them out. So the whole intellectual intolerance that we see nowadays was basically brought up and nurtured by the left and now being pushed further and farther by the right. That's because we bloody believe whatever the heck they tell us to. Media houses have their choice, have chosen their bosses quite well. They are pampered by their respective masters. They are sold outs. You may not agree with me right now, especially in the case of Ravish Kumar, probably an epitome of honest journalism these days, right? He is hailed as the king of unbiased reporting in India, but that is as bitter of a lie as it can get. The thing is, look at his type of journalism closely and you'll find the cracks evident. Though he has bashed the previous government too, though with subtlety and more like formality, and that too the Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. But in reality, the state was actually being run by the Gandhis. He's honest, that I must add, but he is hypocrite, that I shouldn't omit to add. Some other left-wing media houses, especially The Wire, have thrown wide open their Islamic love disguised under secular bigotry to be witnessed by the audience. And on the other side of the aisle, we have the dumb and wicked right-wing media led by Sudhir Chaudhary and the gang. I can't speak enough about Sudhir Chaudhary. He is just flawless when it comes to supporting BJP. He does it so brilliantly that even a paid BJP worker might feel a bit complexed. The kind of jingoism, stupidity and ignorance of the faults of the ruling party are very much evident. Both the political parties, or should I say all the political parties, have their stooges, or should I use the term dogs in the media houses. Guys, today media is bigot in letter and spirit. Some support Hindu bigotry and rest support Islamic bigotry with a cool and fancy secular disguise. Guys, India has always been what we call a liberal right country. The right wants to turn it into a hard right and the left wants to turn it into a China. India deserves none of it. India has only one suitable noun, and that is liberal right. But you know guys, what's the worst part? In this whole episode, the biggest victim turns out to be neither the left nor the right, but you, the masses. Guys, don't be a pawn in the hands of the right and the left. They both don't know this nation as well as they should. Because if they had, they would not be behaving the same way they are doing right now.